Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Tayte for another episode of the Untitled Monthly Movie Show, the monthly video / stream in which we get to talk about everything we've been watching and, I guess, talking points. I know most of last year is talking points, but just each month, there's a strike, which we fully understand and we're with. But we're rounding out. We're in 2024 now, and we are doing the last 2023 stream in 2024. Make it make sense, but it does make sense. But first of all, Tate, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good. It was a very hectic and crazy new year out here. A lot of people wanting to go skiing. We have decent snow here, and that makes us very busy. So I've been completely booked out for work for the entire time whilst being out here. But yeah, I had a good end of the year. I had a good bunch of films that I watched towards the end of the year. Some new, some old. Some which I really enjoyed, some which we're going to talk about today. And I guess the only other kind of comment I'm going to make on today is that I'll probably do my top 10. But here's the thing. My top 10 isn't UK release date top 10. It's what I've actually seen in the kind of, that has been released this year. So I've got a few on there which haven't actually been properly, fully released yet. But I guess we'll talk about that when we get to the list.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about them because it's always, I know you don't have Twitter, but there's been some heated debates because someone did a top 10 video, right? Not video, list on Twitter. And they had a load of what we would call, so yours is basically like American release dates pretty much because they get fucking everything. But someone had done that, but then they'd put the Fablemans in, they'd put Tar in, and they'd put like one of the Oscar films from last year, but then they're doing 2024 films as well, which wasn't making logistical sense in their own fucking ranking. But there's no really right or wrong answer. I just stick with UK because it's just easier. And it also means I get a head start in 2024 because I've now seen 2 films without going to the cinema. And I'll be talking about, well, I guess both of them in here. But as always, for people that are watching at home, we do want you involved. So please do comment what you've been watching. And as well, let us know your favorite films of 2023. Again, we don't care what country they're released in because you might be watching in different countries anyway. I, for one, am impatiently waiting on the Iron Claw to get some form of screenings here because we've got another 4.5 weeks until it releases. 5 weeks. Ridiculous. But And wrestling keeps getting back in the limelight. The Rock returned again last night. You'd have thought he'd come back during the strikes, but it's after. Good one, Black Adam. But anyway, moving aside from that, we haven't really organised this. Tate, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first with what we've been? Yeah, I mean, talking what I've been watching.
Yeah, I can go first. I've watched an interesting kind of bunch of films this month. Not through any fault of my own, but I decided to go on a bit of a let's watch some films from 10 years ago kind of thing at the same time as watching new releases. So we'll start off in 2013. I watched Her to start the month. Nice, easy kind of going film, which I can kind of settle into. I think I've spoken about my love for Her on this channel before. I really, really enjoy it as a film. I think Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic in it. And it's a very Black Mirror-y concept, and I always love those kind of things. So I start off my month quite strong by watching that. Then I watched the brand new release of Leave the World Behind. Dear God, that was fucking dreadful. We didn't do a review for it on the channel. It's getting mixed reviews. Some people really like it, and it's got this environmental message behind it. I thought it was the most boring film I've seen in a very long time, and it's ended up near the bottom of my Films of the Year list. And I understand the message is like, oh, look, technology's ruining everything. Oh, and look at that. We're killing ourselves. We're not saving the planet. We're doing all these different things, and people are going to start turning on each other. This film was so boring, and I'd heard it was based off a book. I can only imagine that the book must be better, because if the film is as boring as the book, then why on earth did they make the film? It really frustrated me watching the film. So that evening, I had to kind of calm myself down, and I ended up watching Snowpiercer instead, which, funnily enough, I'd never seen before. I was like, look, I need something that will, get me back in the mood. I hear really good things about Snowpiercer. I've seen clips from it, and it was an absolute blast. I haven't seen the TV show yet. I hear that's meant to be good as well, but we haven't really spoken about Snowpiercer on the channel. I mean,
I've still not seen it. I remember when it was coming out, it was massive because it's, I don't think it got Captain America. This is 2013, right? 2012, 2013 time of memory. So obviously he's Captain America, and I remember this. He wasn't like the name he is now. Like Chris Evans. That's really unfair to say that, but when he did Snowpiercer, and I know there's a really out of context interview people always talk about. He did an interview in 2011 saying Sunshine's his best film, and that went viral about months ago, and people assumed he was talking about everything since then. I'm not saying maybe it still is his best film, but Chris Evans has took on a lot of unique roles. Even Scott Pilgrim, which I know you're a fan of, that is not a typical Chris Evans performance. And I think, not criticizing Marvel, but the modern day like action star doesn't exist anymore. The star is the characters they're playing, and I really hope Chris Evans gets to do more unique films like this, because the fact he works with it's Bong Joon-ho, right?
It was Bong Joon-ho. Yeah,
I think there's a few other American actors, and the whole logic of the humanity surviving on the train in upper class, lower class. And all
so it's got a phenomenal cast. It's got Chris Evans, it's got Song Kang-ho, John Hurt, Tilda Swinton, Jamie Bell, Octavia Spencer, Ed Harris, Alison Pill. It's a really, really big cast, and it's now an Oscar-winning director of what everyone is saying is one of the best films since, the turn of millennia, in the shape of Parasite. It's a really interesting action film. It's an action film with a moral compass. It's an action film with class divides. It's got politics involved. I really enjoyed it. I'll watch it again. It's one of those films where I watch it and I go, do you know what? I bet my dad hasn't seen this. I think he'd like this as well. So it's probably going to end up being rewatched at some point this year again. But I needed it after watching Leave the World Behind and being bored out of my goddamn mind. I'm going to throw a film out here which I don't think has ever been mentioned on the channel. But I'm a skier. I snowboard as well. But there's one film which most snowboarders and some skiers will point to and go, that film will always be on in a bar or a restaurant here in Austria, and that is The Art of Flight. It is a documentary-styled film where it is literally just 2 hours of people snowboarding on the craziest lines through snow. It won't interest anyone to do anything to do with films at all, unless you like seeing really pretty shots and direction. But the main reason why I'm bringing it up, other than the fact that I did watch it this month, is it has one of the best soundtracks to any film that I think I've ever heard. A lot of M83, like from their era where they were doing intro, outro and stuff like that. Tears Becoming a Sea. They've got some kind of old school kind of rap in there. They've got some modern electronica. They've got like Naked and Famous. It's just amongst the skiing scene, amongst the snowboarding scene, it's famous for having a very good soundtrack and just being on everywhere all winter. So if anyone is interested in that kind of side of things, I would suggest going and watching that. Because it was very fun to watch. Then I watched Theatre Camp, which you've spoken about on the channel before. Yeah. Hilarious. I really liked it. I think it was a good kind of it's a good film that plays heavily on kind of that humor of the similar style of The Office. Not quite a documentary, not quite a mockumentary, but definitely just an outright comedy, and it works so well. I haven't seen Ben Platt in anything outside of Dear Evan Hansen, which in the film he was definitely too old to play. He actually has acting talent. That's interesting to know. I'd be very interested to see whether he gets more roles like this or whether he gets kind of pushed into more musical kind of style things and stuff like that. But no, the film itself was absolutely fantastic and I really enjoyed it. It's now on Disney Plus, right? It's Disney Plus everywhere now, yeah.
It was on, I think I saw it in October. So I've got a VPN and I spoke in the Priscilla review, but I think they're legal. The one I have is £4 a month, and it's the best one apparently. And they cannot trace it, which sounds so dodgy. No, I'm not some dark arts. I just like to watch Amazon Prime US, Disney Plus US, because you get a lot more on Netflix. And Theatre Camp was on Disney Plus in America like October time. It was when you were at the festival. I was building the set, and I remember watching it as part of this like insane week of watching everything, and I absolutely loved it. And I was kind of good because it was in cinemas here for like a week or two. I was never going to watch it at the cinema because I didn't know it was a comedy. I thought it was an actual drama about theatre camps. And the moment that film started, I was like, oh my word, why didn't I get to see this? Why didn't I go and see this? Why didn't I look at trailers? Because it's one of the funniest films of the year. And you know what? The original comedy is hard to find these days. And it does that. And it does the let's mock like Gen Z. Let's mock, not like rich people, but like let's mock the kids of the rich people as well. and they do all of that in a really not even unique style, just well written, which you don't get with comedies now. Nowadays, it's point it out and laugh. Whereas this was just ingenious. When they're like, we got to put this actor in the main role. Why? Because his dad's helping to keep us going another year, and we need him in a lead role. And little things like that are far better than saying, his dad's rich or something like that. And people have to see it. It's very funny. It won't be to everyone's taste, but I thought it was very, very funny.
I completely agree. Then I got some tonal whiplash. I managed to finally watch Anatomy of a Fall. My God, what a phenomenal film that is. That film, it has one of the most tense scenes I think I've seen all year in the shape of the kitchen argument.
I've still not seen it.
I absolutely loved it. I'm going to be raving about this film for a long time, all the way on the lead up to the Oscars. It's a really, really weird way of doing a legal drama. You never kind of, you never know what's going to come out next as part of the evidence. The court case is interesting as like a look into how the French do things. It's very different to how, we do things in the UK, or I've seen in kind of US dramas and stuff like that. It's very, very interesting, and it keeps you on hook. And it's also fascinating in the fact that a lot of the film is in French, but the lead actress is German, but sometimes they speak English. And that is part of the plot in itself. And that becomes a very interesting part of the actual court case. It's absolutely fascinating. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend for anyone to go and see it. I know it's going on a lot of people's top 10s of the year list, but it's ended up on mine. And I'll talk about my top 10 at the end of this. But I was absolutely gripped. I started watching it whilst cooking and kind of was focusing. I actually turned off my food and just fully sat down and watched it and ate my food later. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Then I kind of went on a bit of a Christmas spree. I watched in the same day Die Hard, Jingle All the Way, and Anna and the Apocalypse. Back to back.
I've never seen Anna and the Apocalypse. I'm guessing that's a Christmas film.
It's a Christmas Scottish musical.
Okay.
About zombies.
That's like zombies. Okay.
Yeah.
That's I don't even know what to call it. Is it good?
It's fun. It's great. It's got some interesting songs. The one critique I'll give for it is not many of the songs actually fit to A, the zombie theme, or B, the Christmas theme. It's more about just kind of being it's like if The In-Betweeners was a musical, but also had zombies, but also kind of had a lead female. That's kind of how it works out. I enjoy it. I've seen it a couple of times now. I really enjoyed it. But it was very interesting after watching, Die Hard and then Jingle All the Way and then going into that. It was a very Christmassy day. It wasn't Christmas. It was just like, oh shit, Christmas is coming. I need to watch loads of Christmas films. On top of that, I ended up watching Dawn and Nugget, which I enjoyed. Prefer the original, and I don't think it's one of the strongest animated films of the year. Of course, you've got to love the animation. The voice cast was noticeable. I saw people saying, oh, wow, you can barely notice the voice cast changed. You can. It is definitely noticeable. And that is a little bit frustrating, seeing as the voice actors kind of came forward and said, well, we can still do the voices. I understand Mel Gibson, completely get that. But, a little bit frustrating that part. But I mean, we'll go through it when we go into the kind of the animated films rundown when the Oscar nominations come out. I don't see it getting nominated, which is crazy for an urban film. I mean, the animation itself is fantastic, but there are so many strong animated films this year and so many popular animated films this year that it's going to really struggle to get a nomination in there unless there's an extended kind of list of nominations. But, it's always been 5. I doubt it's going to, push anything else any further. And it's got absolutely no chance of winning. There's some clear favorites in there. Well, one clear favorite and then a couple kind of bring up the rear. But yeah, very interesting. And then, well, the debate will go on forever. And I genuinely want people to debate this in the comments. What is the greatest Christmas film of all time? Because it's Klaus. And, there's no debate there. I adore Klaus. Ever since I first watched it. Yeah, ever since I first watched it, it has become the Christmas go-to film. Makes me cry every time. Absolutely love the voice cast, love the animation, love the story behind it, Love the way it integrates kind of different elements of Christmas. It will become a staple of my Christmas years to watch Klaus on Christmas Day or the day before and just cry every single time. I just highly recommend it. It's some of the nicest animation you'll ever see to a film. It was a studio basically birthed from ex-Disney kind of rejects. And it's just a phenomenal film about kind of the spirit and the origin of Christmas and about families and about kind of, you know, making a life for yourself. It's just phenomenal. It's a phenomenal film. It's on Netflix. I think it'll always be on Netflix because Netflix produced it. Highly recommend it. But I'm guessing you haven't seen it.
No, I've heard of it. I know it's animated and I know it's got J.K. Simmons in it. Aside from that, I've never known anything about it. So it's one of them where I know next to nothing. I thought you were about to say the best Christmas film. I thought you were going to say something else, like Elf.
Oh, Elf or Love Actually. I mean, they both celebrated their 20th anniversaries this year, and I didn't watch them. It's now been
You're not missing out with Elf. You're not missing out.
Okay, if we're going to get into this debate, Elf is fine. And, you know, if you look back at it and you go, okay, Will Ferrell did a brilliant performance at the time. And yes, he's done very similar characters since and kind of, you know, it's a character that, you know, is recognizable and stuff like that. It's a very fun film. It's an easy watch. You've seen it multiple times. You're not getting anything new every single time. You know exactly what you're getting into. There's a lot of hype behind the film. People absolutely love it to the point of insanity. But people are allowed to do that. And I respect Elf for kind of, you know, being that Christmas film that you could literally just shove on the TV in the background and then not really care about it too much. Love Actually. I really enjoy Love Actually, and it used to be my favorite Christmas film. It has been a few years since I've seen it, but I really enjoy the kind of the weaving storylines that come together. I mean, I love Richard Curtis films. I always have done. So I always have a soft spot for it. And yeah, it's been a few years since I've watched it, and I will probably watch it at some point next year, probably towards Christmas. But sadly, I went to go watch it, and it was one of those where it was like, I wonder if it's on, you know, like somewhere streaming online in Austria here. It's not. So I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to watch it then. Can't be asked kind of thing. I'll watch something else, which instead ended up being Muppets Christmas Carol. So, you know. Interesting. I then watched through a bunch of films from this year. So Past Lives, which I thought was okay. Not as good as people were making it out to be. Very, very good filmmaking, great acting. But, you know, people were kind of pitching it to me as, you know, one of the best films they've seen in the year. Like a phenomenal kind of like brilliant kind of direction. And I was just like, well, it's fine. You know, I enjoyed it to a point. I liked kind of, you know, the theming in it and everything like that. I watched Dumb Money, which was quite funny. Really enjoyed that, and especially for an event that was so, you know, not too far in the past that I actually followed quite closely. Very interesting kind of seeing the dramatization of it, and really enjoyed all the performances in there. I watched Air, which is a very easy watch. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's not incredible. It's not bad in any way, shape, or form. Good performances. It's fine. Then I watched Rebel Moon. I mean, go and watch our review of Rebel Moon on the channel.
Ours? No.
Sorry,
yours.
I'm
not
review.
Watching it. No, thanks.
My review of Rebel Moon on the channel. It is. It's awful. It's so bad.
Yes, but Zack Snyder didn't get to realize his full vision, even though it's a streaming film that he's made.
It's the worst Zack Snyder film that I've ever seen. It's. But
this is why it's because so he can release the Zack Snyder cut.
Sorry, I've completely missed my headphones.
It's right.
Go on.
It's okay. It's because it's terrible because it's not Zack Snyder's vision, even though it was made on the streaming service, the only streaming service that lets directors make their films they want to make.
Exactly. Bring out the 6-hour cut. Said no one ever. No, bring out the 4-hour Cloud Atlas cut. People actually want to see that.
Did you hear about the viewing figures? So, and you know you can't pull Netflix accurate data. There's certain websites that can do it domestically in the States. I forgot the names. There's a couple of big ones. Nielsen charts one, a few others.
Yeah.
They're claiming that Rebel Moon had 23.4 million views in its opening 3 days, which sounds like a lot. In the context of Netflix original films, it wasn't. The highest this year was the Adam Sandler Jennifer Aniston film, the second one.
The second was it Murder Mystery or whatever it's called,
something like that. And Rebel Moon was quite far down that list, and I thought that was very interesting because Netflix love to tell everyone how every film is their highest viewed new Netflix original, and it's very far down that pecking order for 2024 or 2023. Sorry, so that what I thought was interesting. Again, I've not seen it. I will watch the director's cut. Only not on the basis that I want to, just that I've got no interest in watching two separate parts. I mean, listen, right? Do you have the part 1, part 2 debate? Harry Potter earned it 9 years in. Even the Hunger Games didn't earn that, and that had 2 very good films to begin with. Twilight, I've not seen past the third one. Didn't need 2 parts for the final book. Dune, understandable, 700 pages, one of the biggest cipher books ever. Zack Snyder's original concept film does not need a 2-parter. Original concept film. It's not an adaptation. It's actually a picture of a rejected Star Wars screenplay, which kind of makes it funnier. From me, at least, that hasn't seen it, it makes it funnier.
I mentioned it in the review. Star Wars never fully intended to be like a massive kind of, fully blown franchise. It had a good original idea, and then it built its universe off that. This immediately went, no, we're going to do a Star Wars. It's going to be big. Look at my universe that I am creating. It's going to have 2 or even 3 parts attached to it. And then multiple spin-offs and sequels. I'm going to build up the universe. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It didn't work. And I'm glad that it's getting absolutely panned because it deserves it. And then to finish off the year, we had Disney's 100th anniversary this year, and I'm out in the snow. Therefore, I have to watch the Snow film, not the Snow White film, but I had to watch the 2 Snow films. Rewatching Frozen and Frozen 2, I found it really interesting when we did the kind of Disney 100s top 10, because I was the only one who put Frozen in there. And looking back on it and thinking back on it, I was going to say, looking back on it and thinking back on it, I feel like Frozen's done very harshly, and I can't understand quite why. The animation is really good. The songs, overplayed and annoying, but really goddamn catchy and actually really well sung and really well acted. The story in itself was the original one to do kind of the twist villain, and actually did a half decent job of it. I think Frozen is actually very underrated, and I feel like it probably should have gone higher up on our list. And it may have even gone higher up on my list if I'd seen it kind of before doing my ranking. It was a debate between Frozen and Tangled to get onto my list, and I know that Tangled's loved a bit more than Frozen, but genuinely, Frozen 1, absolute banger, highly underrated. I was singing along to it. I really enjoyed it. Frozen 2, mid, very mid. Can understand why people don't like that one. But Frozen 1, brilliant. I don't understand where the kind of hate or the kind of not liking comes from it.
I mean, I didn't like it, but I've seen it once about 10 years ago.
Give it a rewatch. Give it a rewatch, because I feel like it's
there's probably 40 of the Disney films I need to watch. I think I was in 23 total. Would it make a top? And this is right. Even with our ranking system, we've said it before. Like if 10 to 20 was ranked, the whole point system would not change. But films like Frozen is probably going to sit 13th, 14th, maybe in that sort of thing. But it is interesting how that works. Carl said Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well, Carl.
Happy New Year.
But yeah, with the Frozens, I've just never seen the second one. It came out the same. It came out the same time as Wreck-It Ralph.
I was going to say, the second one has one good song. All of the other songs are forgettable. Yet the first film, every single song is at least memorable. Even if they're not all like 10 out of 10 banger songs. Like, I don't like the Rock song. I don't care about the Rock song.
That's Moana, isn't it?
The Rolling Rock song. You know, the
sorry, I don't know. Sorry.
And I'm not a big fan of Olaf Summer. All of the other songs are phenomenal. They just are. They're really kind of top tier Disney songs, even if, you know, people don't like them. It's weird. I feel like maybe it was because it was like, you know, Let It Go was overplayed. But
is that
at the same
Encanto,
time,
right? That Encanto song's the one that they talk about most.
We don't talk about Bruno. But here's the thing: rewatching Frozen with kind of it on a decent sized screen with the speakers blaring out, the song hits. The song really hits. The visuals works very well. The transformation works really well. And I know that it was played a lot on the radio, and I think a lot of people have heard it, but it's always meant to be compared to the visuals. And this is what I didn't get about Encanto. I think the songs in Encanto are better when they're not heard with the visuals. I think the visuals actually don't help the songs at all. Whereas with Frozen, it's the exact opposite. If you're watching the film and listening to the score, the soundtrack, everything, it comes together really, really well. But I mean, that was a film that kind of ended my year. I'll very quickly go through my top 10 on my Letterboxd, just purely going through the things that at least I watched this year, very, very briefly. Number 10, May, December, brilliant performances all around. Number 9, Stop Making Sense, the re-release. It counts because it was in cinemas. Really, really enjoyed that.
That's not a 2023 film.
It counts. It's a 2023 or 2023
It's a remaster.
It counts.
I mean, that means like The Godfather would have counted last year.
Okay, fair enough. Then I guess The Mission goes in there instead, which I don't know.
A lot of people picking up on that Mission video. Sorry, that should start that to your fair. We had some very weird comments on there as well.
Really, really interesting. Really liked it. And Talk to Me, I guess, misses out just about in that. Number 8, Nimona. I know it won't get a nomination at the Oscars, but genuinely it was the second best animated film I'd seen all year. Number 7, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. I enjoyed it. It's a good action film, kind of, whatever. Killers of the Flower Moon at number 6. It's actually dropped down my rankings quite a fair amount because I think I've seen other films or rewatched other films and really enjoyed it. Number 5, Anatomy of a Fall. Like I said, really, really enjoyed it, and I'd highly recommend it to everyone. This is the big one, numbers 3 and 4. Which order did I put Barbenheimer? I put Barbie at 4 and I put Oppenheimer at 3. And the only reason why is because I rewatched Barbie 2 times and I really enjoyed it. The jokes still hit. I rewatched Oppenheimer once, and once again, I was blown away by it. And I feel like I had a bigger impact on the second time of watching Oppenheimer. Just because I knew what was coming, and I think that actually worked in a way. It has very, very good rewatchability value, that film. My number 2 for the year is The Holdovers, and I feel like it probably would go to number 1 if I'd rewatched it, because I really, really enjoyed The Holdovers. I know it's coming out soon in the UK.
The 19th.
I know it's been out in America for a while now, but I just... stupid around the release dates and shit like that, but genuinely that will become a holiday classic for years to come, and I really enjoyed the performances in it, and I can't wait to watch it again. My number 1 was Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, I've been saying that for most of the year now. Phenomenal sequel to the original, brought in some fresh new ideas. I know it's been kind of, scrutinized for the way it's treated its animators, but damn, the animators did a very good job, and I know we may have to wait a bit longer for the final parts, but at the same time, this film was one of the best films I'd seen this year, so it gets the nod there.
Spider-Verse is interesting. Apparently, they still have it dated in the American schedule, beginning part 2 in March, but there is no way that is happening.
Chance, not a chance. No.
And I'd rather they don't rush it too, because the first one is, well, I say first one, the second film, aka part 1, is so good. And I'm glad. I think there's a real good chance of it getting a Best Picture nomination, if I'm being honest now. And there's a lot of momentum.
And shout out to my worst film of the year, which was The Flash. I watched 72 releases this year, and The Flash ended up being my worst one.
It's because you have to sit through the Expendables.
I didn't watch the Expendables, so there you go.
they even homage Fantastic Four with a 4 in their title too.
But I mean, it's got Iko Uwais, so if he does any kind of action
trust me.
Oh God, no!
It's like if there's ever been money laundering on the big screen, that was the film that did it, because the entire film is filmed in a warehouse with a green screen, and it's unbelievable.
Oh my God! Okay,
yeah,
let's move on. Let's move on to your December to close out the year.
December's been a weird month. December's been a weird month. Just weird as a whole. And scrolling through the films I've watched are strange too. No pun intended. No Doctor Strange opening. But the first one I'll kick off with, I watched on the 3rd, I watched Wonka at the press screening. Adored Wonka, absolutely love it. It's going to be one of those films that people put on a lot. It's the Paddington effect, isn't it? I know it's the same director, so I'm trying to not call it the Paddington effect, but it's going to be one of those films like Paddington. My parents then watched it. I didn't go with them for that one, but they equally loved it, and they're big Paddington fans. So Simon finally follows me on Twitter. That's my plug. Monday the 4th, I should have got the box set out. I finally watched a film I've never watched that I've wanted to see for many, many years. The original 1954 Godzilla film. This is obviously -1, wasn't out in the UK yet. I picked up the Criterion box set on Black Friday, 20% off. Last year it sold out, so I did, and I'm not paying £150 for that box set. So I had to wait an entire year for it to go on offer again. And I got to watch the original 50s Godzilla film, which was quite eye-opening, if I'm being honest. So that was Sunday. That was Monday. That was a weird Monday night. Then Sunday the 10th. I think this is classified as a film because it's on a HBO documentary. David Holmes' The Boy Who Lived, the documentary about Daniel Radcliffe.
I think I'd say that counts as a film.
It's tricky.
I've seen it advertised. Yeah,
it's an hour and a half. It's a documentary. It's Sky in the UK, HBO in America. It reminds me of Still, the Michael J. Fox one this year, but that was definitively Apple Films. The David Holmes documentary is devastating. It's probably one of the most upsetting documentaries I've watched in quite a few years. Really fascinating, eye-opening for not just fans of Harry Potter. Really, this is for people intrigued by the industry, those that are familiar with stunts that don't know much about stunt coordination. Like through my old work, I knew about the stunt register and how there's like a few hundred people on it, which is meant to represent an entire industry. They talk about that. They talk about how these actors were scouted, how we got into doing stunts, and the build up to the accident. It's sort of split in three. The first third is the first 6 or 7 Harry Potter films, like his youth growing up, his relationship with Daniel Radcliffe. It's honestly, yeah, you just got to watch it, and it's really, really is visibly upsetting as a film. But I really recommend it. Really good film. And as I said, if you're a fan of film or you're a fan of Harry Potter, I think this one to seek out. Then I followed that up with the Muppet Christmas Carol. Don't ask why. Different times of the day, not a double bill. I watched the David Holmes when I was doing the ironing, and Muppet Christmas Carol was like in the evening. I like to have like a Sunday night chill film. First ever time I saw it, I very much loved it. There's a video on the channel talking about that. Then on the 11th, I saw Godzilla -1 for the first time.
How many? Very quickly. How many times did you see Godzilla -1?
I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna go through the month, but that was the Cineworld membership screening. I was invited to the press screening. I couldn't attend. The press screening would have been like Monday the 4th. I just didn't really want to do London back to back with London, and also it wasn't in IMAX, the press screen, so I might as well go to my local one. So that's my mindset for that. Well worth the wait. That's my thoughts on that one. Then I watched the day after It's a Wonderful Life for the first time again. There's a video on that. I really enjoyed it. It's a wonderful film, quite not eye-opening. I didn't know what to expect heading into it. I didn't know anything about the story, so I didn't expect that. And then on the 14th, this is where this thing is going to start to get weird with this type of films I've been watching. I then go to the second ever Godzilla film, Godzilla Raids Again. I think it's 1956 or 55. It's like a year or two after the first Godzilla. He's still a villain in that, but you're starting to get the here's another kaiju, but it's not in that stage of these are what Godzilla films are now. So very weird that second one. No carryover cast members from the first one. But again, like you got to take it what it is. It's the 50s, right? So it's a man in a suit, and it's very funny. But then on Saturday the 16th, I watched May December. That's on Sky now in the UK.
What did you think of May December?
I'm in a weird sort of state with it. I think it's a very well-made film. I saw, obviously, we spoke in the Golden Globes video that it'd been put forward for comedy for a lot of things with its subject matter.
Which we would. Oh, okay. So this was a big debate.
Now I've seen it. I can understand the debate more. I still don't think it's a comedy.
I don't think it's a comedy. I think it's just a really hammy drama.
It's
like a soap opera drama, kind of like really well made.
And I feel like Natalie Portman is in on the joke. I'm not saying it's a joke at all.
If you put it as a comedy, then all of the subject matter becomes comedic, and it absolutely is not. It's a film about abuse. It's a film about, rape, basically. It's really, really heavy subject matter. And I know that Charles Melton's getting a lot of
He's
kind of
very
praise.
good in it. He's very
He
good
is very good in it. I feel like I didn't give enough praise in my review for it because he is very good in it. I still feel like Natalie Portman has the best performance in the film.
Yeah,
but like if you consider it to be a comedy, I feel like all of that is not being taken seriously, and the film definitely understands that it's being those elements need to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and like the only not funny bits, but the bits that they would look at the Golden Globe and say, "Ha comedy," is the Natalie Portman things, which I think is more of a social commentary on method acting than actually the film.
Exactly,
and I think that's the root of the entire film. Really, it's a commentary on an industry and how they operate, and how they can sort of not like enhance vulnerability, but when you've got like a family that's had this drama and there's like an actress like, I'm going to chill with you guys for like a week or two, and how that goes down with other relatives, how that goes down with in-laws and other people. It's very eye-opening. I want to say it's very real in the concept that stuff like this has happened. And you do get people like the lead role, Julianne Moore, who are clearly like mentally ill and do stuff like this too without defending it.
Yeah.
It's very, as it is, I think it's not a comedy. I can't, it was a weird film to watch.
Yeah.
It's such a weird film, but like the musical tones, the little things like that, yeah, that makes it goofy and you said hammy, but
it's a soap opera drama. It's not, it's a sinister soap opera drama. It's not a comedy.
And I know that Natalie Portman almost directed it, which means I think she's going to slowly be making a jump in this direction. But how do you follow up May, December, you ask? 2 days later,
another Godzilla film, probably.
Almost 18th, Jingle All the Way. Classic. 19th, Die Hard. Get the Christmas films out of the way because here we get into the proper ones. 20th, Godzilla -1. Rewatch number 1. So, context this: my dad likes Godzilla films. Gareth Edwards is from a place not far from us. He's technically in our county, but it's like an hour away. So I've got an attachment to Godzilla. I love the 2014 one, and my dad really wanted to watch -1. He wasn't free on the day of when I watched it. He's not a cinema member anyway. So I said, listen, it's great. It's genuinely not just a good Godzilla film. It is an unbelievable film. And I said to him, I was like, it's a foreign film. He watched Parasite at the cinema. He was up for watching it. And that was my tricky thing. Like, can I get him into a normal screening? As the film finished, I looked up at him, and I'm not joking. I didn't think he'd be saying this. That's the best film I've seen. That's the best film I've seen in years, he said. And I was just sort of sat there like, I fucking love it. I'm not going to say that, but I know I watched a lot more. But this is a man that watched Oppenheimer, so can he really think that? I don't know. But
wow.
that was the first rewatch. 20th. It's been in my head the entire time. I love the soundtrack, the score.
Could you watch it? Could you watch it as like a dramatic double bill, Oppenheimer, and then the consequences?
No, you know what? You could. Yeah. I think there's been a lot of nuclear bomb films this year.
I was going to say because Godzilla is based off the fallout of World War II,
and this one's straight after World War II.
It leads straight into. There we go. Yeah.
21st. This is I don't know how much you've seen this online recently. Maestro came out.
Of course, Maestro came out. Of course,
there's a lot of hate for Bradley Cooper on Twitter at the moment. Quote: "He's trying too hard" is the criticism.
Come off it! He just did a really good performance.
I know he threw a lot of shade at Cillian Murphy in an interview. He's basically he's on the I agree with people's criticism. When I say become overly desperate for an Oscar, that's him in his interviews. The film I didn't actually like that much. I thought it'd be right up my street, a film about a composer. Did not know he was bi, so I didn't know we were going to get the personal life stuff. I thought Carey Mulligan was sensational. Yes, was it Carey Mulligan? Sorry.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Carey Mulligan film where she's not great in.
I keep getting Carey Mulligan mixed up.
It is Carey Mulligan.
Good. I always get her mixed up with what's her name from Saltburn, who's in Promising Woman.
That is Carey Mulligan.
Is it?
Carey Mulligan was in Saltburn.
That's fine.
You're getting the same person.
Michelle Williams. I'm getting them mixed up with Michelle Williams, and they're not even in the same film. That's fine.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I thought Carey Mulligan was the best thing about Country Mile in Maestro. I felt like it lacked a bit more development into his actual personal life. Like the opening's like, oh look, he's gay. Now he's straight, and oh look, he's still by at the end of the film, and there were little things they glossed over. I think it's a well-made film. But I think it's way under the microscope too much. People are going in for Bradley Cooper way too much. The conducting scene is great. And the real life footage is there for people to compare it to. Great. He's much better than Rami Malek doing a Rami Malek impersonating Freddie Mercury. I don't think he's impersonating Leonard Bernstein. I don't think it's the best performance of the year. I just think it's a very good performance. I think, and the fact that he's not just acted, he's directed it as well. I think it's always a big thing with stuff like this. It's tricky because I really like Bradley Cooper. He's a good year. Again, people have been way too harsh on him. I'm not a fan of the film, but people love it. So, yeah.
I enjoyed it, and I think the performance is pretty good.
I think I'd have liked it more in a cinema. I'd like the conduction side
cinematically, that composing scene in a cinema, my God.
Exactly.
That's just what you feel it.
That's the difference, right, of a film at the cinema and Netflix at home.
Of course, yeah.
Which is also shit on Netflix.
Did it get a cinema release even for like a week or so?
It got like the typical. I don't even know if it did. It might have. I'm trying to think. Rebel Moon did. I kept seeing that advertised. I didn't see. No, I didn't think Maestro did. Maybe in America, it would have done something in America to qualify. If someone in the UK can comment me wrong, please. Saturday the 23rd, I watched The Holdovers. I really enjoyed it. I don't think I like it as much as everyone else. I'm not as big on the Christmas stuff, but it's not really a Christmas film to me. It's actually a very, very eye-opening drama about loneliness and certain people. I love Paul Giamatti in it. I think he's sensational.
Yeah,
I like where the film ends. I think on a rewatch, it would probably be a lot better. Again,
I just think it's from the three central performances between Giamatti, who's always been overlooked in his career, Dominic Sessa, who it's his first performance, and then Divine Joy Randolph, who I'm pretty sure is nailed on for Best Supporting Actress. It's brilliant. I just absolutely love it. And, you know, Alexander Payne's had a very up and down career. Some films that people really like Sideways and this film, and some films that people really don't like Downsizing. So, you know, I just think, I think it's going to be a classic. It's going to be looked back on, and people are probably going to go back and visit it more.
I don't think anyone outside of Film Twit's heard of it or are going to watch it. That's
probably not. No,
it's because I've been talking about that with another film. Yeah, and I'm curious to see what it is. I think they put it online too early, but they wanted it online for Christmas, which has defeated the purpose of then putting it in cinemas because
exactly.
Christmas Eve, that time of the year, King Kong versus Godzilla, the original '60s one. Never seen it before. Hilarious, ridiculous, but so entertaining. The fact they don't actually face off till like the second half, I really appreciate. Honestly, and actually, I didn't. So there's two versions, right? There's the original. So on the Criterion, right? You go to watch it. I hate the Criterion. It's such a snobby thing, but I need it for these ones. It tries to make you watch the American version, where they actually cut a lot of the Japanese stuff out. So you actually have to watch the native Japanese edition on a special feature disc, which I really disagree with. And apparently, they're two completely different cuts. I'm not going to go rewatch the American one. The Japanese one's a satire, and considering it's the 60s, it's a satire on like corporations getting TV figures, TV ratings. They need stuff to happen, and the concept of Godzilla coming back is like what lures them into ridiculous stuff. And I appreciate it. It's like not a human story, but again, you watch Godzilla -1, nothing can ever compare after. But this was at least trying to have a say. Like the logic of King Kong fighting Godzilla wasn't for the sake of them fighting. It's that satire commentary on, haha, we need the ratings up, so let's put them two together, which kind of then shits on the entirety of the MonsterVerse now, because that is obviously just a corporate thing.
Literally, like, what is happening?
Yes, one producer wanted it to actually happen, but the rest is financial incentive. So anyway, so that was Christmas Eve. And then Christmas Day, I watched Mothra versus Godzilla. This is like 10 at night. This is actually a
Godzilla great. Month for you, yeah. I was going to
say honestly, and Mothra v Godzilla is really fun. Again, like they're all like 90 minutes. They're easy to watch. They're fun to watch, and I like seeing the origin of these kaiju films. And this shows how Godzilla -1 has been in my head the entire month, because I just can't stop thinking about it. And Mothra vs. Godzilla is genuinely a very good film. For those who don't know Mothra, that's the giant moth thing. And has caterpillars and the two like angels that are like tiny, like not even Oompa Loompas, like fairies. But anyway, I love that. And then on Boxing Day, I watched Ferrari at the cinema.
Now,
I don't want
I've
to say
got
I
to
was
ask the question.
disappointed.
I have to ask the question: how bad is the crash?
Bad in the context of like eye-opening, like the CGI on the car. There's 2 crash sequences, and they're in the trailers. I think the CGI is bad on both. I know this one might not have the budget to have good CGI, but the placement of the second crash, the big crash, the scene people are talking about with bodies and everything, that's based off a real event. There's one body that's in half. Like I'm talking Darth Maul in the elevator shaft in half.
Wow.
That happens to the real life person. So it's quite eye-opening from that. I mean, you're like me, right? So you know about motorsport and how in the 50s, well, basically, let's be honest, until the 90s, it was a death trap to do it, to be in it.
It was,
and this film highlights that very well. Everything I dislike about the film is like everything else. Like the performance from the miscast Adam Driver, he's one of my favorite actors. The fact that it's American, not Italian anyway. The fact it's set in for 1 month in 1957, you can't condense Ferrari's legacy down to that. I'm not a royalist, but like, imagine if the crown didn't exist and like the film was like, I don't know, 2 weeks of a jubilee. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not her life. And I feel that Ferrari, and it's really boring because people say this all the time now, if someone like Apple had put money into like an Enzo Ferrari series across like one mini series with different actors or across 2 seasons, people would want to hear about him as a racer, him going into engineering. The logic with Ferrari that he only ever made cars to sell to fund being in racing is the most like insane 180 in sport, because it's the other way around for every other company. They go into sport to sell cars. And then to have his later life as he's older in the paddock and all the other stuff, there's so much they could have done. And it's important the month they did, but you can't condense his life down to that. Like the illegitimate son. It's a shame. It's not like, I don't think it's a terrible film. Some people were scathing on it, really scathing on it. But there is some good stuff with it that I'll defend it for. So it's tricky. It's tricky. Wasted potential. That's my main issue. I then got home. I went in the morning. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was on TV. Hadn't sat in years. Watched it with my family. I still love it. I don't know why. I've always enjoyed it. 27th, I saw Priscilla again, cashing in the VPN Amazon Prime. I'm on a weird trant of Priscilla. I think it's fine. I think there's some really interesting stuff that they look into with her life with Elvis, the Content of Graceland, really going into how young she was, her family's perspective I liked. It's just still hard to look at it because it's not that it's not official. It's based off the book that Priscilla wrote herself. And I'm not saying Priscilla's lying at all. No, I'm not saying Elvis was golden either. No. It's that middle ground of like, who do you believe? And I believe a bit of both. And I think Jacob Elordi's great. But and the main actress is great in the film as well. I've forgotten Carrie Spales, I think. I can't remember how to pronounce it, but Priscilla, it's a weird one. I think it's very good performances, but I think the story is lacking, and it ends abruptly. Then, how do you follow up Priscilla? You follow up Priscilla with
Godzilla film. Godzilla -1.
Kong Skull Island on the 27th.
Wow, you've jumped far into the future.
Yeah, I wanted to watch one of the more recent ones, didn't I? So I put Kong Skull Island on. Still great. I think it was like background was doing some work, so I didn't want to, because obviously I can't watch subtitled film in the background. That's the downside of subtitled films. But so I still love it. 28th, Saltburn. Wow, I did not like.
It's an interesting film, isn't it? I enjoyed it, but I know that it threw people all over the place a lot, and I can understand why you wouldn't like it.
Yeah, like I'm in a weird trance of it. It's become very, very popular. A lot of casual film people, not even film people, like audience households have been watching it, and there are stories go around of families watching it and like turning it off in disgust. And I think if you are not a film person, this is like edgy. And I'm not in a snobbery way saying it's not edgy because I watch film. I think the combination of Murder on the Dance Floor, everyone talking about the needle drop for 2 months, followed by the opening scene, which is a montage, I'd work the whole film out. That's my fault for not watching it at the cinema when I had the chance. I just didn't really enjoy it. I like Jacob Elordi's performance in it. I like a lot of the performances. I can't fault the performances. I I don't think the script was all there of Emerald Fennell. I'm still not sure. Promising Woman is a wonderful film. I thought bits of this were funny, bits of it was weird, but there's other times that I don't want to get into the politics side of it, but it's like, not that I take the piss out of like demographics and stuff, and I'm not mocking Emerald Fennell for coming from like the highest of upper class backgrounds. Like I'm talking like the elitism backgrounds.
Yeah.
The bit I can't shake in my head, it's like, oh my God, like this is a film done by a rich person saying, what if a poor man tried to steal our estate? And then plot twists. Sorry if this is a spoiler. Plot twist is he's not lower class, he's even worse, he's middle class. That's me.
It almost, do you know what? If it had been written a little bit better, that twist could have been similar to Parasite's twist.
If you take out the opening scene, if you took out that opening scene, that would have saved the film a lot more. And yeah, because it's a great twist if you really nail it down. The fact as well that he's got a Scouse accent, but then again, right, if you're stereotyping, is that shitty to say, oh, he's poor, he's got a Scouse accent? Like, I know it's been in the news of football recently with certain chanting and whatnot, but in my head, again, right, if it's that, I don't know if she was born in Westminster, but she was born like in one of those types of places. What's the first place you think of that's going to be, quote, a shithole? Liverpool, right? And I'm not. That makes me sound terrible, but it felt like every stereotype.
I'd say it's one of those that does come up quite often, and
it's too easy a stereotype.
It is. It's far too
I'm not
easy
saying like I'm not going to just pick places and say these are all shitholes, but I'm just saying it felt like Liverpool's the easiest one to have done, and they did. And then like the posh family is that posh accent. And listen, there's stuff I really like in that film. I just didn't like it overall. But I appreciate that it's. I don't even want to say it's original. Some people calling it the British. What's the Matt Damon film?
Which one? Oh, In Talents of Mr. Ripley.
That's it. People call it the posh Mr. Ripley. Again, I've actually not seen that, but I know about it. But yeah. Sorry, less Saltburn. 29th, we're almost there. A couple more. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. After watching Kong, I don't know if I can. I have seen the finale to the Monarch series on Apple. I can't. I think it's embargoed until next Friday, so I can't say what I think of the final. But that's what made me want to go and watch Kong and King of the Monsters quickly. King of the Monsters, I hated it the first time I watched it. I didn't watch it in the cinema. I had the full setup this time. Everything was actually really excited. Went out and got a takeaway for a change. So brilliant. I'm gonna watch Godzilla fight fucking King Ghidorah again. Fight Rodan. I remember how good the trailer was, and the film was just terrible still. And I was so gutted. And I think again with this MonsterVerse now, with how bad the new film looks, putting like three villains, or 2.5, 3 villains in the sequel.
Did they Spider-Man to it? Did they? Because I don't really follow
Spider-Man 3. Amazing Spider-Man
3. Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around what they would do. I know they wanted to do King Kong versus Godzilla, and their approach was let's put them all in this one because we'll do King Kong next. And really, you didn't need to do that. And the direction's poor. The choreography, the fight sequences, like it makes Gareth Edwards' film look so much better because he approaches Godzilla with scale. Is this beast that you can go watch Godzilla compared to these ones that have come since America? It's like chalk and cheese now, and I was really disappointed by Kingdom Hearts. I was really hoping for it as well to be like, maybe I was wrong a couple of years ago. Maybe because I'm watching the originals now, I might have a different perspective, but no, it made me hate them more. Then on the 30th, watched Chicken Run the Nugget. Same as you. I thought it was okay. I'm not the demographic anymore for Chicken Run. Yeah. I liked the whole concept of like free range eggs, free range chickens. They're all obviously wearing tags and they're like hypnotized. I liked that bit, but I didn't particularly care for anything else. If I'm being really honest. And I don't like what they done to the voice cast. On New Year's Eve, I say New Year's Eve. It's like 1 a.m. on New Year's Eve. Godzilla versus Kong from last year. Not last year, it's a couple of years ago. Hasn't aged as well as I thought it did. But I'm not going to watch Godzilla versus Kong for a human story. No. The Godzilla and Kong sequences are great. The Mechagodzilla sequence, great. Just all the human stuff, no thank you. I know you have to do it in these films. Yeah. But the film that I then watched properly on New Year's Eve, Godzilla -1, has once again set the stage for what the impossible is. And I'll tell you what I've got to talk about. We watched it in 4DX.
How was that?
That, without doubt, is one of the best cinema trips I've had in a long time. So wow. I noted in the review, in America, I think her name's Jane Nicholson. She was big on YouTube. I don't know if she still is, but this is like 5-10 years ago. She did a tweet about a month ago, like, I just watched the most horrific film of 4DX. My body is aching. I was being thrown around left and right. Every time there was a movement, there would be a thud. And I was like, that's a great advert for 4DX. I want to watch a Godzilla film like that. And it's finally got a UK 4DX. I texted my friends. One of them had seen it. One of them hadn't. They both wanted to go. So we went on New Year's Eve. Listen, 4DX is a gimmick, right? If you watch a film, you're going to enjoy it because you know what the film's about and you know what you can probably expect in certain sequences. Godzilla -1 in 4DX. I cannot get over how amazing it was. I know you've not seen it. And I don't want to spoil it, but have you heard about like whenever
I've heard nothing. I haven't even seen a trailer for it. I've just heard hype.
Godzilla has atomic breath, right? Like that's a character trait. Everyone before I saw the film was talking about the atomic breath sequence, and that's what I'm going to call it. Those that have watched it, Ginza is the only thing I'll say. And there's this moment, and then I started laughing because I knew it was coming. The chair was just like throwing you like that, and I was having it was like the scene in the Mr. Bean film where he turns it up, and this is one scene, and it was just the best 5 minutes I've had in a cinema, and I couldn't get over it. And like every time he'd step his feet into the floor, right? And like in how real life the concrete goes up. When the concrete goes up, when he steps, like on a close up, the chairs went funk and you all flew up. It was amazing. Honestly, wow. Anyone that's got a 4DX near them, make the effort to go watch it normally, properly first, and then go watch it in 4DX. You will thank me later. I just couldn't. Again, I never thought I'd seen another film after Top Gun Maverick.
I was going to say, my one biggest regret is not watching Top Gun Maverick in 4DX. That is my one big regret from
Top Gun was great because you'd get air going at you, you get wind turbines, the chair was always reclined. But Godzilla, that was a different level. Like when there's a sequence at the start of the film where he's like eating people. That's not a spoiler. I'm not going to see this in sequence. But every time it would come in and eat, you'd get like a pincer in your back. And it was just great. Honestly, it might sound like a terrible advert, but I think I compared it on a group chat to the ragdoll mechanics of a GTA game. And I don't think I'm ever going to top that. I've not been to the cinema since. I'm probably not going to go watch it in 4DX again. It's a pretty tricky thing to try and like ask friends to go to. The two I know that were up for it, I wouldn't be asking anyone else. But that's my December. It ended with Godzilla -1. 3 times I watched it last month. It jumped. I didn't think it'd be 4th on my film of the year. I put it 4th. It keeps climbing, and I think I've got more respect for it the more I'm watching these older ones. Not just the new one taking it back to his roots. I know it's Toho. I haven't seen Shin Godzilla from 2016. That'll be on the last one to get to, but it's really the new one is it's almost not a sad thing Godzilla's name's attached to it. People probably won't watch it because it's Godzilla, but the actual the humanity side of it, the drama side, it's set in Tokyo. Well, no, not Tokyo. It's set in Japan, like straight after World War II. So the country's rebuilding. And even the setting to the characters, it's like every character has a character arc. There's like, you could even say it's 7 or 8 different characters. They all have their own character arcs. And they balance it perfectly whilst having fucking Godzilla on the big screen. $10 million budget. $10 million budget.
That's what's crazy about it to me. From the few images I've seen so far of it, it's like, wow, they did that with 10 million. God, hire them to do everything else. Like, seriously. I mean, with that and the creator with this year, it does prove that big studios like...
budgets need to come down.
This is why The Flash was my #1 worst of the year, because I think from all of the films I'd seen, that one was the worst example of you have a big budget and you've gone and it's some of the worst CGI I've seen in years. How on earth can you do that when the creator looked so good? And how on earth can you do that when, from the few images I've seen of Godzilla -1, that looks so good? That's an absolute travesty.
Exactly. And like even Mission Impossible, which I love, a $300 million budget. Now, yes, that's ballooned because of COVID, because of delays. But the fact that a Mission Impossible film grosses $580 million and it's a loss of $20 million, the issue in Hollywood right now is budgets being too high. And created Godzilla. The Godzilla -1 cost less than one episode of probably every Marvel show the last 5 years. I bet something like that. And again, I know that Japanese cinema, like I'm going to guess, budgets are different in the concept of like as an industry. Like if you made that exact film in America, it's not going to be $10 million. It'd probably be like 75 mil off the top. If I was looking at films similar, but again, it shows how awful, and usually how awful the budgets have got on these bigger films, and they're the ones making losses. And that's what's got to come down now. Is budgets have to come down. Because the dramas are doing okay financially. You've got a lot of smaller films doing well. The Iron Claw's on track to do incredibly well in the States. And Godzilla -1. I've been reading its numbers each week are dropping like 10% in America. That's like unheard of. Like it's people are hearing about it through word of mouth. They're going to it. And I think it's on the VFX long list at the Oscars. It's into the final, I think 10 or 20 now. I want Godzilla or the creator to win it just on the premise that they're just two completely different films on different scales at such minute budgets. You remember how Ex Machina won, and it didn't beat Star Wars because it had better visual effects. It won because it was look at what we did with our budget.
With that budget,
that's what these were, and I'm all for that. That's what the best visual effects should be. We've got a few comments by Carl.
Yes,
Godzilla -1 is amazing. He did his double bill. He said, "Next goal was one life was heartbreaking." I've not seen either of those yet. I wanted to do a triple bill on Boxing Day, but I realized that I had family coming over, so I couldn't. So I had to pick one. I wanted to do Ferrari, Anyone But You, which is the Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney film, purely because of what happened on set, and Next Goal Wins. I'll probably end up catching that. I think Next Goal Wins came out a while ago in America, so I reckon that'll be online soon.
I'll probably catch up on Next Goal Wins.
Because I don't think it'll be as bad as people make out. I think if we're into football, it's probably going to be more understandable for us. But One Life, I've heard good stuff about that. Just came out yesterday here. I know that was the festival, wasn't it? The Anthony Hopkins one. And here's a quick question for us both. Do we think actors pay demands at escalating budgets? I don't think so. So
no.
In the 90s, yes, when Arnie was getting paychecks of like 30 million in the 90s, that sort of ballooned. If you look at how much money actors were getting back then, I know some still do well. I look at RDJ, obviously, but like you're hearing stories now, films like Oppenheimer, where like all of the big casts are taking not just pay cuts, they're taking like some of the lowest salaries possible to keep a budget down. I think the problem with these $200-300 million films is genuinely executive producers who not do the budgeting, but like I'm talking your studio exec producers, not your actual producers, who are just assuming that people are going to go because it's a comic book film. Then their mindset goes to your Kevin Feige's, your EPs, who are in like, okay, let's take a VFX shot that's like a yellow lightning bolt. They'll wake up one morning and be like, turn that blue, please, do it by the end of today. That takes days and weeks of work, and then more artists come on board. And then I actually think it's the combination of dreadful CGI is built from CGI studios and artists not having the time or I don't want to say the budget, but
I want to say I want to say it's purely based off not having a kind of a cohesive team lead, not having a plan from the very start. Kind of coming in with we're going to make this, and then maybe they see something in another film and they want to change something, and they're like, okay, we're going to move away from our original kind of decision. We're going to go with this instead. Or if they kind of they go like you said, I want the lightning bolt to be blue now, and then the next day it's like, actually, do you know what? I preferred it how it was. Can you turn it back? Kind of thing, and stuff like that. And it's over management of various different things, and of course,
over management.
The people managing those things are getting paid for all of it as well. So that's increasing the budget from their side. And I feel like the actors, I mean, we hear about reshoots on set and stuff like that. The actors are usually there, they get it done, and then it's done. I feel like most of it is from either post-production or that's where the budgets are ballooning and stuff like that, or whether they go kind of, it's not the actors kind of demanding more pay and everything like that.
It definitely was in the past.
It was in the past, but especially with the strikes this time around, it's very clear that, the studios want to cut their budget, and they want to do that by kind of, putting CGI people in or putting in AI and shit like that to replace the actors. They're using that as the excuse as to why they can, raise their own paychecks and stuff like that, when very clearly it's their paychecks which are the ones that need reducing. They need to actually manage the projects correctly.
Yeah,
and I feel
and
like
they're not.
If a film in a series, say for example Marvel, becomes unsuccessful, they're having to manage it more, and therefore they're like, oh, it wasn't successful, so I've got to have more input to make it successful, and that's just not how it works. And that's why I'm really happy that films like The Creator did reasonably well-ish,
Yeah,
kind of for its budget, and Godzilla Minus One's doing fantastically well for its budget, because it feels like both of those projects were managed very well, and they were like, that's why I want it to look like, yeah, done. Okay, no changes. We'll go with that kind of thing. And that's kind of how films should be made. It's how they were made. I don't know why things have changed.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring you Wonka, the most recent example, right? $125 million budget. Right now, that's sitting at just under 400 million worldwide. Phenomenal numbers. That was a $250 million film. That's not going to hit its target, but it's 125 million. It looks great. It looks better than $200 million films recently. And that's a combo of using sets, having creative designs, structures. That also shot during COVID, so that gets the excuse like others do. I think we are right. It's the over management. It's studios changing things on a whim. Even animated films, these won't be the smaller ones, but Wish's budget was like 180 mil, wasn't it? And it's really funny. I saw one of those like videos going viral on Twitter of like when people are taking the piss out of like YouTubers, and there was someone like enraged, like Disney deserves to make losses. This is their fault for like shite storytelling, woke storytelling. I'm like, the films aren't making money because of that. The films aren't making money because they've programmed their audience to wait 6 weeks for it to go on Disney Plus. So your target demographic of families to watch Wish aren't going to the cinema knowing it's going to be on Disney Plus in 6 weeks. And that's where it's happened through. They've basically not just shot themselves in the foot. They've done a sort of amputated their own fucking leg off in COVID. And now they're still funding films like pre-COVID without realizing the audience and industry's changed. It has to evolve, like everything evolves. In the 90s, it was we need to get the salaries of actors down because they're wanting too much. Was it Arnie was like 25 million in Batman and Robin or something insane? Only one actor can get those salaries these days. That's Robert Downey Jr. And that's because he rinsed Marvel knowing it'd be a success. He wouldn't be getting a $55 million deal if he was doing a Marvel film tomorrow, that I can assure you. And it's the sort of same approach now is by studios over management. That actual, if you look at these studios, if you look at the execs like your David Zaslavs, I'll actually excuse Disney CEO out of this, Bob Iger, because he has a history within the film industry. Let's say Bob Chapek before they ousted him. These are people that have never worked a day on a film set. They don't have a clue what they're talking about. And they're making these financial creative decisions from a suit perspective, not from a filmmaking perspective. So I'm not saying David Zaslav's going to say, get rid of the lightning bolt. But David Zaslav's saying, if I cancel this Batgirl film, I can get a $20 million rebate. Just because you want that $20 million to maybe balance a book. But then you've got The Flash starring Ezra Miller with $250 million budget, which has gone down the drain, which they called the best film since The Dark Knight, didn't they, internally? So it's one of them where a lot of it's the studio's problem. A24, I like The Shining Beacon. Not a lot of their films are for profit or big grosses. They struggle to distribute internationally. But when they get a hit, you know that that's going to then fund other things. And I know what Scorsese spoke about and Christopher Nolan spoke about, Nolan more so. The studios should be using the profits of films like Marvel, hypothetically big blockbusters, to then go out and fund the actual real films. That's how the studio system worked for decades and decades, but it's only until the last 10 years where they've just rinsed the wrong things. And from my perspective, these strikes not only a wake call. Again, I'll look at Godzilla Minus One. That's a writer that's working out, and AI is not going to make that Godzilla film. It's not going to be done in American system. Godzilla's now pink. It looks terrible in the new trailer. I don't think that was an overnight decision, but crikey, if they turn around and said, let's put him back to blue, it's going to look terrible in the film unless they delay the film. And without ridiculously changing the conversation, the Marvels this year, they got a 4-month delay. Now, whether people like or not, I don't really care. I thought it was fine. The one thing I'm not faulting is its visual effects, because in that 4-month delay, they actually admitted it was to actually do the VFX properly. And by companies such as Marvel having this ridiculous schedule of, we've got to get the 3 films out in this specific order, everyone's losing, because then you're taking, I think Black Panther, they took CGI artists off Ant-Man to put onto Black Panther.
Yeah.
So Black Panther looked fine last year, but Ant-Man looked even worse. But the reality is actually pay VFX staff properly, because they're all unionizing. They're all going to go on strike probably this year.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Pay them properly. Delay the films if you need to delay the films, because films should take. I mean, look at Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm talking about it again, but if Apple were rancid, they'd have told Scorsese last year when it was meant to come out. That doesn't come out in 2024. That comes out in October now. But Apple waited, and he got to finish his film properly. And when at Cannes, when at all the festivals, it's going to get an Oscar talk. In 5 years, no one's going to care about his festival run. They'll be looking back at that film as a look at this film, and it's a really tricky environment. I think the studios, all of them, are in dire need of restructuring. I don't know how. I saw a really funny article this week saying that the studios think they could be near profiting from streaming, which is so funny because they're so clearly not. But the fact that they run that as good news, that they're near profiting. Listen, we spoke about Zack Snyder. How much is that Rebel Moon? About $200 million supposedly.
Yeah.
It's not on any cinemas. And you mentioned Air. Air was a film made straight for streaming. Amazon tested the water. I think it made $45 million. Yeah, that's not a profit, but that's $45 million more dollars that film has put back into itself than they had. They need 4.5 million Prime subscriptions to turn on to do the equivalent. And I think they're starting to realize now the mess they're in, Disney particularly. And again, I don't want to get into the whole woke and that stuff. It's not, people don't care about stuff like that. People watch the films they want to watch, which is why the Marvels 2 people just didn't want to go to the cinema. There's been brand damage. People maybe don't like the character. It's the title is not a sequel. If you ask a generic person in the street, you can watch the Marvels, they're just going to assume it's a new Marvel film. They're not going to know it's actually Captain Marvel 2.
Yeah,
because it should be called Captain Marvel 2. And I know there was the strike as well, less publicity. Very few films profited that came out during the strikes as well. It's worth adding. It's the whole, it's a cesspool at the moment. It's every studio. But now Discovery, who bought Warner Brothers, don't have the money to run Warner Brothers, which is why they're now talking about uniting them off with Paramount, which is so not even wrong. I don't care if they merge. There'll be one less streaming service on the block. But the fact that their answer is like, we could potentially bankrupt Warner Brothers in the next 2 years, get them off to Paramount quickly, just goes to show is they're not in the business of making films. They're in the business of making money, and to make money in the film industry, you've got to actually be able to know the film industry. And this is where your producers of the old day who used to direct or who worked on film to film to film, whilst these have died out, the ones that have come through are just suits. And sorry to over elaborate and waffle, but there's so many things that could talk about.
Yes,
that.
exactly.
I would say I'm sure there are some actors that do have a lot, but I don't think in the grand scheme of things,
inflating the film's budgets. To
no,
the point,
not like it used
it's not
to.
The main reason. It's not the main reason.
And I also have to add, I don't think the industry has the stars it once did to command it. Tom Cruise can command a high fee. Robert Downey Jr. can. Can Timothée Chalamet? Not really. I don't think he can go up to someone and say, "Give me $20 million to be in your film."
No,
I don't. I think you've got. Can The Rock do it? Well, he's back in WWE.
Not anymore.
As exciting as to me, yeah. And when he was leaking financial numbers about Black Adam, that's not a good look for other people too. Ooh. So it's a very, very tricky scenario. Could Millie Bobby Brown do it? Maybe if she made a non-Netflix film. Who knows? So, and because every film of hers is a Netflix original now, so it's a good question, because if I certainly think it could for some. I mean, ultimately, let's look at Mission Impossible. That's a $300 million budget because Tom Cruise just did Top Gun Maverick. Dead Reckoning Part 2, which is no longer called Dead Reckoning Part 2. Tom Cruise doesn't have the power he had 1 year ago. He's got a lot of power, do not get me wrong. But he does not have the post Top Gun Maverick. Now he has the Dead Reckoning's made a loss of 20 mil. So we now need, the Paramount can now step up and say, okay, we're going to say no to this or no to that once more. So it's a really tricky one. It's a good question, though. It's a really good question.
Exactly. Well, I guess, I mean, we've both gone through our films for kind of the entire year now with the Untitled Monthly Movie Show. We want to hear what you watched this month and what you watched this year. What was your favorite films of the year? So comment with what you watched below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Also, go and visit us on all of our socials. There is a Linktree link down in the description that will take you to all of them. And also, there's a Redbubble link in the description as well where you can pick up some merch. George, what is coming up into the new year?
Oh God, I spoke about Godzilla. There's no Godzilla retrospective, people, so don't worry. I'm watching.
No.
I'm going to probably be chatting about it. Well, this series for a start, it's still going to be a thing. We're just going to likely change the name. January, New Year, easy to do it. So we're still going to do our monthly stream. It will just probably have an easier name to follow, maybe a different type of thumbnail. Who knows? There's a lot of things happening. You're going to do a review for Society of the Snow, which remind me comes out on Netflix this week. There's a very big Apple TV series. I'm not talking Legacy of Monsters. No, a bigger one than that. Master of the Air starts at the end of the month. If we're lucky, we could have something early. If not, fair not, because we're going to be doing Band of Brothers in the Pacific in January this month. There's a lot we're working on, I guess we can say, behind the scenes. As always, when we announce stuff, we'll put them on social media. I feel like there's a new Poor Things is out next week. It's the release dates, right? It's because of the American ones that robbed it. I keep forgetting. Well, hasn't come out. Poor Things is out in the UK this month. Iron Claw next month. Hopefully that gets an early screening. I need to be at an early screening for that. The Von Erich family is well worth reading of people that don't know about them. There's a lot, isn't there? I can't quite.
There is an awful lot.
I feel like I'm missing something really obvious.
I mean, we got Percy Jackson. We've got other TV shows like Percy Jackson, and there's a few things. But what we're saying is, I mean, me and George, we had a small meeting the other night. There is a lot coming out. There is an awful lot coming out. So please stay tuned. Keep an eye on our socials, because we'll keep on advertising when new things are coming out, and we'll have videos out, sometimes completely spontaneously. This Society of the Snow one was basically spoken about yesterday, and now it's happening. So just keep an eye on the socials, and we'll keep you updated on when the new stuff is coming.
Definitely. Once again, thank you to everybody watching, Carl for commenting as well, and we'll see you all on the next one. Take care.